Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to pull the NVMe drive out of this Ioneo Air Plus Intel i3 1250U. It's only 128 gig, so we're going to pull that out and we're going to stick in a larger one. So thanks to Amazon Prime Day, I've picked up this little Lexar. Now it's not the greatest drive. It's a Gen 3, no, it's a Gen 4 that's actually in this. It's Gen 3, it's not got any DRAM cache. It's 2TB. It's a massive upgrade. So this should fit. First thing you should have always have done before ripping open your Ioneo or any device is get a little caddy so that you can mount your drive and use something like Macrium Reflect to back it all up. So I'm going to try and do this in a single take. So I've watched a couple of videos, not really paid much attention about the interior, but when it comes to upgrading, certainly these little devices, it's a little bit tricky. So you've got two screws in the bottom there. You've got one screw in here. Now first things first, you want to take out your little memory card. In my case, oops, thrown it away. In my case I've got a little 1TB Lexar, so I might not need to use that in here when I put the 2TB in. There's another screw there. So what we're going to do is take these three screws out first and we'll move on. So tools you're going to need a little screwdriver, a very small tip, and you're going to need a pick for getting in the seams of things. So first things first, we'll take out these two screws in the bottom edge. So I currently have a lamp behind me here and a little white additional light there, so you really want to make sure you've got as much light as possible. It's going to be difficult to show this, but here we go. Got the screws coming out, and you want to put them someplace safe. So that's one screw out. So I like to just line my screws up. So I'll do the bottom screws, then I'll do interior screws, and at the top I'll do the top of the case screws. And that one was definitely a little bit tighter. Not quite out actually. One of the things I hate about these black screws is if you get, when you're unscrewed stuff, you always take a little bit of the coating off. There you go, that's that screw. Now that's a very small screw. They are both the same size. So I want to try and get into the screw that's in here. Now that one looks like it. Now you want to clear plenty of tabletop space, because if a screw falls out at any point, you want it to fall where you can see it. And this is a cork backing, so it's pretty easy to see. There you go. Use a magnetic screwdriver. Tiny little screw. It's the same as the other ones, so that's good news. So that's the bottom screws out. Now is where it starts getting a little bit hairy. Apparently, well, there's a bit here, you have to take this strip off along here, and apparently from what we've watched online you can pop a pick under the edge here and just peel it off. So let's try that. This could end in disaster. Well, I was trying to be gentle and precise, but the whole thing popped off no problem. As you can see, the clips are all fine along there. So yeah, that's quite a good bit for coming off. So we'll put that to one side. So on the top here we've got another one screw, two screws, three screws, and that's it for there. But apparently the worst bit is there's screws behind here, behind both these clips. And from what I've seen online, you have to basically just pull the button out in that direction towards the centre, and it should just pop off the back end. So we're going to try that. This could be a disaster. I might actually just zoom out a little bit, give myself a bit of space. So it's going to be difficult to show. From what I've seen, you put your finger edge under here and just kind of roughly pull it. There we go, that's actually just popped out a little bit there. And most of the people that have shown it online have just kind of wrenched it off. I'm just going to be a bit more gentle. There we go, that's it coming away. So as you can see, it's half out. This does not feel great, but that popped off okay actually. I was quite surprised by that. So there's a little clip in there. There's the screw way down there. So I'll do this other one. Hopefully this one goes smoothly. Now I've noticed this one feels a bit looser than that one. So we'll just, there you go, same again. That's just popped out that edge there. Oh, this one's much easier to come off. There you go, just have to be gentle and take your time. that came out fine. So put that over there. So now on the screws on the back. So we'll take out this case shell down, this case screw down here first. Now I'm actually using the smaller screwdriver that I got out for that bottom screw because it fits just a little tiny bit better. There we go, I'll screw it. Now that's the same length as the ones I've already used in the bottom. So I'll take the bumper ones out first, put them side by side. And we'll take out these screws here now. There's not a screw there, there's one here though. Do this one here next. Now, like I say, word of warning, if you're going to open up your INEO, don't do it in the evening. I find some natural light helps. As you can see, I've got a bit of natural light here because I'm sitting outside during a sunny day. If you can sit near a window, it helps, and have as many lights on as you can. Okay, so I think that may be all the case shells, the case screws, sorry, removed. So one there, second one there, one in the middle, one at this end, one hold the case at that end, and from the bottom, you know, 1, 2, and the third one pointing in there. So I'm just trying to think where's the best place to pop this case open. So obviously you're going to be putting a hard plastic pick and you're going to be twisting to try and get in the clip. And you really want to get someplace where it's not going to be visible. It would have been good if there was a seam in here that we could have popped open, but there isn't really. Possibly there. Where I would normally attack these is between the bumpers. Certainly did that on my my Win 600, right about there, but it's right on the top of the case, and it's quite a tight seam, so I don't think that would be a good place to attack it, so let's keep looking. Now these clips are quite good in that they're overlapping onto the shell, so maybe a point there, and we're going to, anything that we put in here may be quite well disguised because there's this trim panel that's going to cover it. So obviously if you make any damage at all, it's going to irritate you forever. Just try with a finger first. I think they've got to tell if this is pressure fit here, so I'm going to just take the video, but I am going to pause just now and try and find a point for entry. Okay, I think I found the ideal point of entry here. It's just this little edge under the top USB-C point. There's like a little tiny lip, so let's have a little look if we can get in here with the... There we go. Ah, that's it, perfect. So it's just opened a little bit. So we get these clips. So personally, I just let your fingernails grow a little bit before you do these sort of jobs, and then use your nail to pop in, and there you go. Your fingernail's much softer than the shell. You have to be quite gentle when you're cracking open these cases because there is a ribbon cable that's attached to the back which connects to the fingerprint reader. So just be aware of that. So the back panel's popping off here, but it's not popping open so easily. So what are we missing? Normally shells just want to pop open. Once you start making inroads into them, they just pop open quite easily, but this one still feels quite well attached. There's no more screws. I'm just going to pause again, watch a little bit of that. So it does just seem there's a very tightly fitting shell. So we're just going to have to get a little bit braver. It's still popped off around there. We need to try and pop in this edge here. Now I can see there is when I'm holding it there, it has opened up this seam a tiny bit. So I'm going to try and see and wedge a bit more finger in there, pop that seam a little bit further. There we go, we can see it's popping. Yep, just right there. And it's best to just go slow. It's always my recommendation. Be as slow as you can. Clip really doesn't want to open up. I think maybe a clip about there, from what I can see. We'll try the other side. Definitely tricky. So some of the videos I've watched online, they crack the top open just like we have there. We've got a little bit of a gap, and then they move on to the bottom edge, which I can see is actually opened a little bit here. So that's what we'll try now. So you want a nice soft pick. I know that definitely wanted to give there, didn't it? But I think the top might have just clipped shut again. Yeah, a little bit. Just pop this open again. Okay. Really does not want to stay open. A tight fitting case, it must be said. Okay, I think I'll pause again and pop the case, and then we'll cut back and I'll show you exactly what I did. And of course on that point, found it straight away. So holding it, screen up, turn it side on, and then you'll be able to push into that seam quite easily. There you go. Now it's popping open. So we'll do the same on the other side. I'll show you what I mean. So hold it side on and work yourself into the seam just at the top here and push down. Now you're probably better just, I'm holding this against my stomach just to give myself some balance. There we go, just clipped in there. It just popped straight away, and you probably heard that just off camera. It's quite a firm pop. The next one's popped no problem as well. So we'll work our way around to the bottom. There you go, look at that. It's actually quite a nicely made case, I think, in that respect, in that it just wants to pop. So we've got there, I'm not going to push into the speaker grill too much. That could potentially be where people have been damaging their speakers, I'm not sure. Speculating, of course. So there you go, now it's just naturally popping open. Oh, there we go. Very much loose. We have one clip over here, I think, and that's us left. So we'll turn around. Just closed. There we go. Now it's loose. So, what I would suggest, before you do anything, choose your case, or cloth, just to protect the surface, the screen, and just to stop the sticks moving around too much. So I'll gently pop that there, and we'll lift this off up the way, I think. Yes. So as you can see here, got that ribbon cable which we want to be careful about, and look at the amount of dust that's already on this thing. Okay, so first thing you need to do is pop the connector off the battery, and it looks like it's just a little lift off connector, so we will just gently off there with an edge of a nail. So that's the battery now disconnected. That's good news. And there's our little NVMe drive in there. That looks like it's going to be quite fun getting into that. So let's just move this a little bit. Screws. So first thing I want to do is take off this fan shroud. So there's a screw there and there's a screw there, and I think that's possibly all there is holding that in place. So we'll just take these two out first. And the good news is these fan screws are quite a bit different to the case screws. They've got a very large head on them, albeit not a large cutout for the screwdriver. It's the same screwdriver head size, so that one's very loose. That's came out quite easily. About the same length, I think, by looking at them, but a much bigger head on it. So put that there. This other one, well, it's came off, it hasn't came loose, so Okay, so we have some tape here, which I just wanted to try and lift off gently from one side, I think. Very sticky. And I'm going to try, I was going to say I'm going to try and keep my fan in place, but that's not going to be so easy because there's a tiny little header here. So I think I might lift the fan off this way, which means I'm going to move that screw. I'm going to move the whole unit up somewhat. Move that back there. We'll try and get this screw out from here. Just lift this up, lift. Yes. So if we can lift that up from there, we'll get this other bit of tape out. Now, I don't know if any people have taken that board off, but I think I should try this tiny little header. Let me just have a little look. These headers can be very, 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 very gentle. If you're just very careful, it might just lift off. It doesn't look like it wants to just lift straight off. Small enough I can just lift it a little bit from one edge. No, I'm not going to risk that. There's a little foam pad on here, so this foam pad has been put on top of this tape, which makes it a little bit tricky. But I think we could just peel this off along this top edge. Very sticky tape, so this should last a long time. Now this is my teardown. This might not be the way other people have done teardowns, but this allows me to leave as much attached as possible. Maybe we can flip the fan that way. So again, that NVMe drive it's underneath the edge here, which isn't going to make it super easy to get out. What is that? It's some thermal compound, I think. So it does look like we have to take this little board off here to get in amongst it. Now, does the battery lift out? Is that a lift outable battery? No, it's very well stuck down. So screw wise, we have a little screw here. That's very gently fitted. That's a bit smaller than those screws, so we'll put that there. Take this little screw out from here as well. And is this now loose? Doesn't appear to be. Is there any other screws? Just jiggle this up a little bit. Definitely appears to be something else attaching that. Okay, so I've just lifted this cable out of the way here. There's a little clip that you just flick up with your nail and it lifts out. It looks like there's a set of pins connecting this little board on because I can feel it's moving a little bit. So we're just going to gently ease it up. Yeah, I can see it's lifting out there, so I'll just have to gently use a pick. There we go. As you can see, little set of pins. So that little board will move to one side. We're a little bit closer now. We have to get this panel off here. Now, how is that attached? I think there's a screw down there, isn't there? There's definitely a screw here as well. Does this all look like it's part of the same frame? I'll take this little screw out from here. It does look like they're mostly using the same screws. So, yep, so I think we'll take this screw out from, there's another screw under there and there's a tiny little wire there, isn't there? Is that a speaker wire perhaps? So just be very careful. Now I don't know how many people are going to take their i3 apart, or their Mendocino model. I've got that other screw out there. Yep, and I think that's not a screw there, but there is a screw down here. So even though I've got some good light, I'm still struggling to see exactly where all these screws are now. Yes, I'm an old fart, so that probably doesn't help. But just take your time. This should come apart. And that lifting out, but there is actually it's attached up here, isn't it? So there's two screws up here. This other panel is going to lift off, I think. So that's 2 screws at the top edge here. Often when I do upgrades like this, I usually like to keep them open whilst I there's that little wire again, look at that. I could see that being a real issue for some people if they're not paying attention. Oh, what give? Just be slow and steady. Can't be much wire in this wire, so just slowly move it that way and lift this up and out of the way somewhat. Now I'm not going to lift this right off. I can see the screw is right there for the NVMe, so we're just going to pop that out. Obviously the less you can disassemble the better, in my view, because the more you take out, the more you have to put back, and the more things could go wrong. So there's a little fat NVMe screw out, and out comes our drive. Now this couldn't be much more complicated to take apart. There you go, that's the little Cyber Thunder 128 gig. So let's park this up there. Now unfortunately this little caddy's fallen to pieces a bit. It's a lot of use over the years, as you can see. Similar, same size, no chips in the back, which is what I wanted, just in case, because there is quite a lot of stuff going on around here. So we're going to very gently slide this back into this direction. Trying to avoid that tiny little cable on the bottom edge. Let's just line this up. That tiny cable, see if that was a different colour. That would make life so much easier. Okay, let's just slip this under. I'm going to just, oops, still have the screw attached there, that's not so good. Now, what's that black wire doing now? Tricky to see, but there we go, that's good. It's out of the way. Let's get our screw lined up. Just gently lift that up and place that down at the same time. Now this screw really doesn't need to go in tight. Just needs to be able to hold it. It's a little bit loose there, so we're just going to tighten it a tiny bit more than that. And one thing I would say is, I was getting close to getting the yips there where you start shaking. Stop if that happens. Just take a break. No point in rushing. Okay, so put that little cable up here. We'll just place this a little bit down. And then we have to remember, pick the wire to screw up there. That wasn't good. Carefully adjusting this wire so that it goes back around this little panel. Okay, this is pretty tricky working here. There's not a lot of give, and I suppose that's really the point with these systems. They don't want to give you some virgin. Get the yips there. I think I'll stop for a second, take a little breath. Okay, I slid it in at a slight angle earlier, so that's what we'll try this time. And I took it out. Just remember, these cables will not stretch. There you go, that's it now lifted up. So let's just give this a little wobble and make sure it goes back where it was housed before. I think it's housed at the bottom okay, but maybe not at the top. Ah, now. This little thing's falling out. There's lots of people commented about that falling out. Now there was 2 of them, I think, isn't there? Let's be very careful here and just quickly look to see if the other one has fallen inside. I'm going to take that back out. This looks like a little dampener of some sort, a little rubber piece. So we'll just rotate this back out. Lift that up, see if the other one is in there. Nope. Okay. it's lined back up there. Now we need to get this a little bit closer just so we can lift it up and see where that little dampener wants to be. It's lining up okay on the bottom, but not so much at the top. There we go. There's a little bit of glue on that panel there, so just something to watch out for. Right, this looks like it goes under there. So let's work out which way around it should go. This way, I think. Okay, so we'll just lift this gently out again and place that in there. There's a little chip by the looks of it that's there, so just centre that. Oops, careful now. Just hold that down at that point. That looks better. Okay. Time to put screws back in, so 3 screws in the bottom at a time. Now, as I was saying, one of the things I like to do is, if that's lining up, nope, it's not going on. One of the things I like to do with these, that's not even lined up properly, hold on. Yes, one of the things I like to do is partial reassembly and then test the NVMe drive is actually working, because the last thing you want to do is open up your device multiple times. But because of the teardown on this thing, it's going to have to be that way. That's never good. Screws just fell through. End of the screwdriver there. Okay. Definitely worth having a magnetised screwdriver. Or a magnetised tip, I should say. Just gently magnetised, not strong. Magnetic setup. Now, does that fold over there? Yeah, it did. Okay, third screw. Where was that one from now? In here. So that's one screw, second screw, third screw behind this little clip. 2 screws at the top. One next to the fin stack on the heatsink. Yeah, so I haven't been able to test this NVMe drive over the USB-C because it just didn't seem to want to work. So what we're going to do is we're going to boot it up. I'm going to pretty much assemble it, to be honest, I think. Is that screw in there? I think that looks about right. Good. Next, this little board here. Make sure you, so that wire is now well at the way, so that's good. I think that might actually be wireless antenna. One wire there and that's the other antenna, so yeah, you want to be careful with that. I quite like this little board. This is obviously to do with power delivery, I think, so it just seems a nice little setup for just taking it out and lining it back up. So just gently place it back over the pins as going on. Now I've got 2 screws for that, so what I want to do is just line this up. So see that little flip there? Flip that over. Carefully line it up and jiggle it in place. Push the little clip back. I've taken apart enough PS Vitas to know they're horrible connectors. So let's screw in here. That's not the right screw, is it? That's totally the wrong screw. That's the screws I used to open the case with earlier. Try that one more time. I think there was just a little bit. even push down a little bit further. Yeah, there we go. So far, so good. Okay, so next is rotate the fan back into position. One thing I've learned from doing the 1X player was the fans and that, the wires can be quite awkward. In fact, I'm just going to push the screw through just to make life a little bit easier. Put these two screws over here just now so I don't knock them out of the way. Yeah, so the fan shroud on the 1X player was quite poor quality, so there you go. Just line that up there first. Make a little jiggle. Now is that fan wire out the way enough? I don't want it underneath the fan, but it could potentially get nipped. And also, I think that's perfect. Just want to make sure these wires are all out of the way. When it comes to screwing everything down, right, that looks good to me. Just make sure that tape is well attached again there. That looks good to me. That's looking nice. Everything seems to be going back together so far, so almost ready for reassembly. Power, we'll have to do power next, so let's just check that little wire's totally out of the way. Yep, it appears to be running through the conduits that were already there, so that's good news. I don't know how the speakers are getting broken on these things because it's so far away from the speakers, unless it's to do with this board itself. So it's a strange one. Now there's a little sticky pad now. I'm just going to stick that back down because that popped up quite happily here and there. So let's just line this up. Hopefully it will just find its way home. A tiny little click and it went. So we could technically turn it on at this point. We'll just carefully flip this case over. And the process for turning on this little bad boy is power, which is this button here, and the down arrow, or the down volume button, sorry, for getting into the BIOS. So we'll just try and push them together. So still no display, we'll come back to this in a moment. So it seems I was just not being so patient. It's booting up now. So that's good news. I took the video cable out again, I reattached it. When I turned it on it was still blank for a while. It just seemed to take a little while before it came to life. So let's see about turning this off. And it's booted up perfectly. So that's one to watch out for. In the BIOS, I told it to use the USB-C to boot. And I used the NVMe drive which is currently in it, and the caddy, and it wouldn't boot. It always crashed in Windows, but now it's booting up fine. So what we'll do first is we will just shut down Windows and we'll reassemble. So what we'll say is this video is currently at about 40 minutes. That's generally about the amount of time it's taken for this teardown. Right, okay, so what we're doing now, we're just going to be putting the back cover back on. So let's just make sure everything is out of the way, but it can't get nipped. See, I can see that wire looks like it's very close to the edge there, and if we're not careful when we're closing it, we could nip an antenna cable, so we don't want to do that. It appears to be rooted in there, so that's good news. That's well out of the way, and this is out of the way. So, nothing else to attach, so all we do is rotate the case round, and we're going to go from the top first. So like I say, this has been about 40 minutes long, this video. However, I will have edited it down a bit. So I'm leaving this bit in. That's why I'm talking now while I'm reassembling it. Just clip all the way around. Just gently press. And it should want to go together, and if it doesn't want to go together, that could be because something's catching. Now that does feel like something might be catching there, so let's just pop this open again, just to be sure. Definitely something not happy in that corner there, so we're going to just pop it open. Like I say, better just to be safe than sorry. Again, what I'm going to do is just pop this open just to make sure. So it was around this area here, I wasn't happy about how it's clipping shut, so I'm just making sure there's definitely nothing in the way. There isn't, so nothing is loose. And one thing I did notice there when we first turned it on was we've got sound, which is always a great sign, since I know quite a few people have had issues with our sound. So just still there. So what's at this end? We've not actually changed anything at this end. This just appears that it needs perhaps to be clipped in first. I think that may have been the last part to become unclipped, so let's just line that up properly. So that's going to be the first part to get clipped shut. There we go. I've turned on again. So these appear to pop out a little bit, so I'll just say get a finger in between them and pull them out again, and then push it as you're clipping it shut, and it will clip back in better. So I think it's easier to do this on my lap, unfortunately. There you go, so it's popped open a bit more, and now when we clip it, there you go, it's clipped nice and tight all the way around. And there isn't a mark on the case, which I'm pleased to say. So time to put all these screws back in. Let's start with the top edge again. So we'll do the end ones first, I think. Yep. Need to remember which ones they were in the order here, but that's all good. So we've got one screw in this bottom edge here. As you can see, right in there. Difficult to see, but it's in. Again, you don't need them to be super tight. Because the case clips themselves will be holding the case shut rather than the screws. Screws just stop it from popping open when it's in use. Okay, let's put these top 3 screws in now. I have to say, having watched other videos and having listened to people online with their horror stories, it kind of put me off this, to be honest. I'm quite confident when it comes to open up PC hardware. I'm also prone to getting the yips, but at least I recognise that, and I take my time. Just go slow. If you're not sure, just getting an eyeball on something for a while can make a big difference. 3 top screws in. Now we're going to switch ourselves to the bottom. So I'm going to do this awkward one first, I think. It's not just awkward for filming, it's awkward for actually looking at. So once I've got it in, I'm then going to just tilt it that way so I can see. It's a very, very small screw in a very cramped space. That's it in. That's good news. Last screw. Okay, Now for these shoulder buttons. This fills me with dread again, so let's make sure I've got the right way. Left trigger, right trigger. Okay, so we came from the outside edge and went that way, so we're going to try and go that way back in. So there does appear to be a little bit there, so I'm just going to have to lift it up at an angle here. Let me zoom out even further. Well, that's as far out as I can zoom. So that didn't click in. Yeah, not so good. So there's little locating tabs there. One's just fallen off. So I think these are not designed to be put on and removed multiple times. It has to be said. So you either get it right first time or you might be stuffed. Let's try it one more time on this side. Ah, now that one's gone fine. And it's stuck fine. So let's just check my little tabs on this bit. They look okay, but I'll just make sure they're definitely good. This one looks like it's maybe not quite finished properly there. That's maybe part of the problem. This one's a little bit, well, I might have mashed this one a little bit. Let's just see if I can straighten up a little bit. Yeah, that looks good. So just be careful when you're relocating them. Try this one more time. So in this edge here, there's two little dots there, you see that? Two little dots for these knobs go in, and I've mashed that one again, so you can just feel it since I was putting it in. Now the other side, it's straight now. Now it does actually appear that there's like machining down the side here that's not quite cleared all the way out, or maybe they've left a little bit extra material on purpose because they know it's a bit of a weak design. It's only weak if you ever have to take it apart, I suppose, isn't it? So let's just try one more time, see if we can lay this up. You know straight away when it's not going in. That little tab has moved again. Yeah, it does appear that there's little lines coming in this direction from the little pin. And I think if you don't locate them first time, they don't locate. So let's try this one more time. We'll just line it up more this time. The other side went on no problem, that's what's annoying. Ah, now, as you can see, that little pin's came off, it's just fell there, look. Now that was the same on the other side. There was only one pin left, but let's just try now. Because it clipped on first time on the other side. Nope, it doesn't want to do it. There's a locating pin on the bottom as well, so yeah, it's definitely too much material at the side there when I look in. It's difficult to show on camera because I can't get the camera to focus that closely. But there is a little pin there. And up the side there's just like, it feels like a little bit too much material, but we'll just try again. Huh. So just being gentle and persevering will get you there. So that's both sides on. Actually feels a bit more sturdy than it did last time when I first received it. Okay, time to put this strip back on and we are all done. So there's little teeth. They do actually all appear to, no, they don't all clip in one direction. So as long as we'll get some of them clipped on. Well, there we have it. Reassembled. And let's go into BIOS. So power button and the down volume button. After the initial, there we go. And we're now in. So let's see if we can remember how to go through the menus. Okay. It's the shoulder buttons, isn't it? So go to boot, and as you can see here, well, hopefully you can see here, we have Windows Boot Manager is showing a Lexar SSD NM610 Pro 2TB. So that's looking fantastic. I'll move this out of the way now. So, Macrium Reflect is still installed on this machine, but I will be taking that off shortly. So we'll fire up Boot Manager. Or Task Manager, I should say. Just so I can show you the drive is in use. Disk 0. Now we have 1.8 terabytes of usable space. Now, what I did was I used Macrium Reflect to clone the drives. So if I go into Disk Manager, what you'll see here is it's got a mirror of the original partition, so the recovery partition, the boot partition, and then a 1.7 gig of unallocated space. Now personally, my preference is to make that a new drive. And I'll put my Lexar drive back in, and hopefully we'll do a lot more game testing soon. Stay tuned to the channel. Please like, share and subscribe. Please, please, please consider subscribing. It really helps me out. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.